Hello everyone and welcome back to Earth to Rocco. It's Canadian Thanksgiving and I'm going to be bringing an Italian classic to the Thanksgiving table. We're going to be making gnocchi, but instead of using potatoes, we're going to be using pumpkin. Pumpkin gnocchi is known as gnocchi di zucca and it comes from northern Italy, specifically in regions like Lombardia, Veneto, and Emilia-Romagna. These regions have a rich culinary tradition that incorporates seasonal ingredients like pumpkin into their dishes. Pumpkin gnocchi has a subtle sweetness and earthy undertones that are reminiscent of the cozy autumn season. This is why it'll be a perfect dish for our Thanksgiving meal. We're also going to make a vegan butter sage sauce that's going to pair perfectly with the earthiness and sweetness of the pumpkin gnocchi. Let's get to it. So I'm starting with a can of pumpkin puree. You can use fresh pumpkin, but you'll need to bake it, peel it, and mash it before incorporating it into the mixture. But using prepared pumpkin puree just makes it so much easier. So we can put the pumpkin puree into a large mixing bowl. To the pumpkin puree, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of nutmeg. Nutmeg pairs perfectly with pumpkin and is going to help to bring out the earthy and sweet notes. Now we can mix it all together. I'm going to start with 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We may need a little more, but you don't want to put too much. You just want enough so that the dough holds together. So we'll just start mixing it with a spoon. When it's too difficult to continue mixing it with a spoon, start using your hands. You want to do this gently because you don't want to overmix the dough. Overmixing the dough will make your gnocchi very tough. The dough is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to add another cup of flour. I'm going to move this onto the cutting board. You definitely don't want your dough to be sticky, which mine is right now. So we're going to add another cup of flour. I think 1 more cup should do the trick. Just keep on adding until the dough is no longer sticky. So I kneaded the dough into a ball that's not too sticky, but kind of pillowy. I'm just going to clean up the cutting board. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on the cutting board. That's to prevent the gnocchi from sticking. I also have a large tray that I've lined with a tea towel, and I'm going to add some flour to that as well. I'm going to place the gnocchi here as it's being made. So I'm just flattening out the dough ball a bit. And I'm going to cut off a piece. I'm going to roll this piece to about the diameter of my thumb. So we're just creating a long snake. And now I'm going to continue to do it with the rest. So now we're going to cut our gnocchi into the shape of little pillows. I'm going to make them about 1 inch wide. I'm going to start moving them over to the tray. You're a gnocchi newbie if you use egg. If you want to create ridges with your gnocchi, take a gnocco and put it against a fork. Use your thumb to create a hole in one side and ridges on the other side. This will help to hold sauces better, but it's perfectly fine to leave them like this. So I made enough gnocchi for about 4 to 6 people. It all depends on how hungry you are. So I'm gonna freeze half of this and make the other half with my vegan butter sage sauce. Before freezing your gnocchi, you should cook it first. If you don't cook it first and you freeze it raw, there's a good chance that your gnocchi might fall apart when you cook it afterwards. So let's head over to the stove. So first I'm gonna start with the batch that I'm gonna be freezing. I have a large pot of water on the stove that's been generously salted. So gently drop them in the water. So these aren't going to take very long to cook, maybe about 2 to 3 minutes. As soon as they float to the top, you'll know that they're ready. So as my gnocchi are starting to come up, I'm going to transfer them to a tray lined with parchment paper. So what I'm gonna do with this batch is I'm just gonna allow it to cool. Then I'm gonna make sure that they're separated and I'll put them in the freezer and then transfer them to a Ziploc bag. When I wanna cook them again, I'll just put on a pot of boiling water and cook them until they're heated through. There's no need to thaw it, you just put it straight from the freezer into the water. So I'm gonna start the vegan sage and butter sauce for the next batch. I have a saucepan here and I'm gonna turn the stove on to medium-high heat. I'm gonna add in a stick of vegan butter and allow it to melt. Now that the butter is almost melted, I'm gonna add the gnocchi into the boiling water. This time I'm just gonna use the tea towel because I'm dumping them all in. The butter's almost melted, so I'm gonna add in some chopped fresh sage. And a pinch of salt. I'm just gonna let it simmer at a low heat until the gnocchi finish cooking. I'm just gonna add a touch of pasta water to the butter sage sauce. I added the water to prevent the butter from burning, and it will also help the sauce adhere to the pasta. It's an Italian secret. As your gnocchi start floating to the top, you can add them into the sauce. So now I'm just gonna stir the gnocchi into the sauce until the sauce is thickened. Buon appetito! That's one heck of a fall dish. It's perfect for Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining me in creating this delicious pumpkin gnocchi. If you liked today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with my latest recipes. Head on over to earth2rocco.com to find the ingredients and instructions for today's recipe and more. Happy Thanksgiving!